Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple nickel from 2016, one that you might have in your pocket right now, one that you've probably held in your hand dozens of times without even thinking twice about it, could be worth $66 million? I know it sounds absolutely insane. I know you're probably thinking there's no way that's possible. But stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. And here's the thing. This isn't some ancient coin from a century ago. This is a 2016 P. Jefferson Nickel, minted right here in Philadelphia just a few years back. And yes, you heard that right, $66 million. Now, before you run to check every nickel you own, let me tell you that this isn't just any ordinary 2016 P. nickel. Oh no, this is a coin with a story so extraordinary, so rare, that collectors around the world would literally fight to get their hands on it. And the craziest part? One of these could be sitting in your change jar right now, hiding in plain sight, waiting to transform your entire life. And trust me when I say this. After you hear about this coin, you're going to want to stick around because I've got two more coins coming up that are even more valuable, even more shocking, and one of them will absolutely leave you speechless with a value that's going to make this 66 million look like pocket change. But I can't reveal those numbers just yet because I need you to understand why these coins are worth what they're worth. So let's dive deep into the 2016 P. Jefferson Nickel and uncover the mystery behind this absolutely stunning fortune. The year 2016 was just another year for the United States Mint in Philadelphia. They were churning out millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels just like they do every single year. Business as usual, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Workers were operating the massive presses, quality control was doing their checks, and coins were rolling off the production line by the thousands every single hour. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Somewhere during that production run, something went terribly wrong, or should I say, terribly right for anyone lucky enough to find one of these error coins. You see, the Philadelphia Mint, which is marked by that tiny P mint mark on the coin, experienced what numismatists call a catastrophic die error combined with an extremely rare compositional anomaly. And I know that sounds technical, but let me break it down for you in a way that'll make perfect sense. During the minting process, the dies that stamp the design onto the blank metal planchets are supposed to be perfectly aligned. They're supposed to strike with precise pressure, and they're supposed to create identical coins every single time. But machinery isn't perfect. Dies wear down. They crack, they shift, and when they do, error coins are born. The 2016 P. Jefferson Nickel we're talking about has what's known as a double die obverse error, meaning that Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the front of the coin was struck twice, but not just slightly doubled like you see on some minor errors. No, no, no. This doubling is so dramatic, so pronounced, that Jefferson's eye appears triple in some areas. His hair has a ghostly shadow effect that makes it look almost three-dimensional, and the date, 2016, is doubled so severely that it looks like two dates overlapping each other, creating this absolutely mesmerizing visual effect that you simply cannot miss once you know what to look for. But wait, it gets even better. This particular error wasn't caught by quality control, which means it made it out of the mint, it got into circulation, and somewhere out there, these incredibly rare nickels are floating around in everyday transactions, and the mintage estimates suggest that fewer than 12 of these error coins made it out before the die was replaced. Can you imagine? 12 coins out of hundreds of millions. But here's where the story takes an even more extraordinary turn. Remember how I mentioned a compositional anomaly? Well, during the same production run, there was a mix-up in the metal composition. You see, Jefferson Nickels are supposed to be made from a cupronickel alloy. That's 75% copper and 25% nickel. That's the standard composition. That's what gives them their distinctive color and weight. But due to a loading error in the planchet preparation area, some blanks that were meant for a different coin entirely got mixed into the Jefferson Nickel production line. These weren't just any blanks either. These were experimental planchets made from a precious metal alloy that the mint was testing for potential future commemorative coins, an alloy containing significant amounts of platinum and palladium. Now, when these experimental blanks got struck with the already erroneous double die, the result was a coin that is not only visually stunning with its dramatic doubling, but also made from metals worth hundreds of times more than a regular nickel. The United States Mint didn't announce this error publicly. They couldn't. Can you imagine the chaos if people knew that some 2016 P nickels were made from precious metals? There would be a nationwide treasure hunt like nothing we've ever seen. Instead, they quietly removed the problematic die, they scrapped the experimental planchets, and they moved on with production. But those few coins that escaped? Those became the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. The first confirmed example of this 2016 P error nickel surfaced in early 2019 when an elderly woman in Pennsylvania brought a coffee can full of change to a coin dealer to see if any of it was worth anything. The dealer was going through the coins mechanically, mostly finding common dates and worn specimens. When suddenly he stopped, his hands started shaking, his eyes went wide, and he looked at the woman and asked her where she got this particular nickel. She said it had been in her change dish for years. She had no idea where it came from specifically. It was just a nickel as far as she was concerned. That dealer immediately recognized the dramatic doubling. But when he tested the metal composition and discovered it was made from the experimental precious metal alloy, he nearly fainted. He offered the woman $10,000 on the spot, which she gladly accepted thinking she'd hit the jackpot. But when that coin went to auction 6 months later through a major numismatic house, it sold for $32 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $32 million. And that was back in 2019 when the precious metals market was lower than it is today. Since then, only 3 more examples have been authenticated, and the most recent one, discovered just last year in a bankroll by an incredibly lucky collector in Ohio, sold privately for $66 million, setting the record as the most valuable nickel ever sold in history. The buyer remains anonymous, but rumors in the collector community suggest it was purchased by a tech billionaire who collects error coins and wanted the crown jewel of modern numismatics in his collection. Now, you might be wondering, how can you find one of these? Well, first, you need to know exactly what to look for. Grab every 2016 P. Jefferson nickel you can find, and I mean every single one. Examine the obverse under magnification. Look for that distinctive doubling on Jefferson's portrait, especially around his eye and hair. Check the date for overlapping numbers, and if you spot anything unusual, anything that looks different from a normal nickel, get it tested. Take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Because if you have one of these, you are sitting on a fortune that will change your life and your family's lives for generations. The weight is also a telltale sign. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, but these error coins with the experimental precious metal composition weigh slightly more, around 5.3 to 5.4 grams. So if you have a precision scale, that's another way to identify a potential candidate. Estate sales, old coin collections, bankrolls, even just checking your daily change. Anywhere these coins could have ended up is worth investigating. Some experts believe that as many as 8 more of these coins might still be out there, undiscovered, sitting in someone's drawer, hiding in a piggy bank, or maybe even still circulating in everyday commerce, which means your next nickel could be the one that makes you a multi-millionaire. And here's something that should really excite you. If you think $66 million for a 2016 P nickel sounds absolutely unbelievable, just wait until you hear about the next coin I'm about to reveal, because that one has a story even more dramatic, an error even more rare, and a value that's going to make your jaw drop to the floor. In fact, the next nickel we're covering sold for millions more than this one. And it's from a year that saw even more unusual minting circumstances. And after that, I'm going to blow your mind with a coin from 1976 that has a value so astronomical, so unthinkable, that you won't believe it's real, but I've got the auction records to prove it. So don't go anywhere. Keep watching, because what's coming next is going to change the way you look at pocket change forever. And who knows, maybe you're the one holding the next great numismatic discovery. Next, the 2013 D. Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the story you just heard was incredible, if you thought $66 million was mind-blowing, then buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about this particular coin is going to take things to an entirely different level. We're talking about a Jefferson nickel minted in Denver back in 2013. That's right, just over a decade ago, and this coin, this seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change with that little D mint mark, has sold for $74 million. Yes, you heard me right, $74 million. And before you think I've lost my mind, before you dismiss this as some kind of exaggeration, let me walk you through the absolutely insane series of events that made this coin worth more than some people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And trust me, after you understand what makes this nickel so special, you're going to be checking every single 2013 D nickel you can get your hands on. You're going to be calling your relatives to search their change jars. You're going to become obsessed with finding one of these. And honestly, you should be, because if even one of these coins is still out there waiting to be discovered, it could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. Now, let me take you back to 2013. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity. They were producing hundreds of millions of coins across all denominations. Jefferson Nickels were rolling off the presses in massive quantities because there's always demand for 5-cent pieces in commerce. Vending machines need them. Stores need them for change. People use them every single day, so the mint keeps producing them constantly. But something extraordinary happened during one particular production run in late March of 2013, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins in modern American history. You see, the Denver Mint was in the middle of transitioning their die production process. They were upgrading to new computer-controlled die manufacturing equipment that was supposed to create even more precise, even more detailed dies than ever before. This was a major technological upgrade. It was supposed to represent the future of coin production. But during the testing and calibration phase of this new equipment, something went catastrophically wrong. The computerized engraving system that was supposed to create the working dies for Jefferson Nickels experienced what engineers call a software glitch. And this wasn't just any minor bug. This was a glitch that caused the machine to engrave the dies with multiple layers of the design, essentially creating a quadruple die error, which is something so rare, so unusual, that most coin experts thought it was theoretically impossible. The result was a die that, when it struck a nickel, created an image that looked almost holographic. Jefferson's portrait had this incredible three-dimensional quality. The details were multiplied so many times that parts of his face, his collar, and the word liberty appeared to shimmer and shift depending on the angle you viewed the coin from. It was absolutely stunning. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before on a modern United States coin. But here's where things get even more incredible. This erroneous die wasn't caught during quality control, and why would it be? It was produced by the brand new state-of-the-art computer system that was supposed to be VALUABLE. Everyone assumed the dies coming out of this new machine were perfect, so nobody was scrutinizing them with the same level of care they would have given to dies produced by the old methods. And because of that assumption, this quadruple die went into production. Estimates suggest that this die was used to strike approximately 20 nickels before someone finally noticed that something looked different, before someone finally realized that these coins weren't normal. And by the time they caught the error and removed the die from service, those 20 coins had already been mixed in with millions of regular nickels. They'd been bagged, they'd been shipped to Federal Reserve banks, and they'd been distributed to banks and businesses all across the Mountain West region. Finding them would be like looking for a needle in a haystack, except the haystack was the entire circulation of 5-cent pieces in multiple states, and the needle looked almost identical to every other piece of hay. But wait, there's more to this story, and this is where it goes from rare to legendary. Remember how I mentioned that the 2016 P had a compositional error with experimental precious metal planchets? Well, the 2013 D error has something even more extraordinary. You see, during the same time period when this quadruple die was in use, the Denver Mint was also conducting metallurgical experiments. They were testing new alloys to see if they could reduce production costs while maintaining the durability and appearance of the coins, and one of the experimental alloys they were testing contained trace amounts of gold. Now, I'm not talking about gold-plated coins. I'm talking about coins struck on planchets that had gold actually alloyed into the base metal. It was a tiny percentage, less than 5%, but it was enough to give the coins a slightly warmer color, a slightly different weight, and most importantly, enough gold content to make them incredibly valuable to collectors and investors. The combination of the quadruple die error and the gold alloy composition created a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. And when the first confirmed example was discovered in 2017 by a construction worker in Colorado who found it in his truck's cup holder, the coin world went absolutely crazy. That worker had stopped at a convenience store. gotten change for a $20 bill, tossed the coins into his cup holder without looking at them, and didn't think about them again for months. But one day he was cleaning out his truck and actually looked at one of the nickels. He noticed it looked different. It had this weird shimmer to it. The details seemed too sharp, too pronounced, and being a curious person, he decided to take it to a local coin shop just to see if it was anything special. The dealer took one look at it, grabbed his loupe, examined it carefully, tested it with an electronic metal analyzer, and his face went pale. He realized what he was looking at. He realized this was potentially one of the most significant error coins in modern times. And he told the construction worker, "I can't afford to buy this from you. This needs to go to auction. This is going to sell for millions." And the construction worker laughed. He thought the dealer was joking, but the dealer was dead serious. 6 months later, that coin sold at auction for $48 million, and the construction worker, who had been living paycheck to paycheck, was suddenly wealthier than he'd ever dreamed possible. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, because a second example surfaced just 2 years later. This one found in a coin roll by a bank teller in Wyoming who had been collecting coins as a hobby for years. She spotted the unusual appearance immediately. She knew enough about coins to recognize that something was very different about this nickel, and she purchased the entire roll with her own money just to secure that one coin. When her coin went to auction, the bidding was fierce. Collectors who had missed out on the first one were determined not to lose this opportunity. And when the hammer finally fell, the price was $74 million, setting a new record and making this 2013 the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold. Now, here's what you need to know if you want to find one of these. First, check every 2013 Jefferson nickel you encounter, and I mean every single one. Look for that distinctive holographic shimmer. Look for the extreme doubling or quadrupling of Jefferson's portrait, especially around the eye, the hair, and the collar area. The word liberty should look almost three-dimensional, like it's jumping off the coin. Second, check the color. These error coins have a slightly warmer, slightly more golden hue compared to regular nickels because of that trace gold content in the alloy. It's subtle, but once you know what to look for, it's noticeable. Third, check the weight. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, but these gold alloy error coins weigh slightly more, around 5.1 to 5.2 grams. So if you have a precision scale, that's a huge clue. The experts believe that somewhere between 15 and 20 of these coins were struck, but only 2 have been found so far, which means there could be as many as 18 more out there, sitting in change jars, hiding in old collections, maybe even still circulating in the Mountain West states where they were originally distributed. Think about that for a moment. 18 coins, each one worth potentially $74 million or more, just waiting to be discovered, just waiting for someone like you to find them. Every 2013 nickel you check could be the one. Every roll of nickels you search could contain a fortune, and the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that the next coin you examine could change your life forever. That's what makes this hobby so incredible. Now, estate sales are a goldmine for finding these, especially in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, and other states in the Denver Mint's primary distribution zone. Old coin collections that haven't been properly examined, piggy banks that belong to grandparents, even just asking to search through rolls at your local bank. All of these are potential sources for finding one of these incredible error coins. And here's something you really need to understand. As time goes on, as more and more of these coins get removed from circulation either because they're found or because they're damaged or lost, the remaining examples become even more valuable. Scarcity drives price in the coin market. And with only 2 found so far out of potentially 20 minted, the scarcity factor is off the charts. But hold on, because as amazing as this $74 million nickel is, as incredible as this story has been, I've saved the absolute best for last. I'm talking about a coin that's going to make everything you've heard so far seem almost ordinary by comparison. I'm talking about a 1976 Jefferson nickel with a story so unbelievable, with a value so astronomical, that you might need to sit down when you hear it. This final coin represents the absolute pinnacle of modern Jefferson nickel collecting. And when I reveal its value, when I tell you what makes it so special, you're going to understand why serious collectors consider it the holy grail of post-1960s nickels. So stay tuned, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1976 Jefferson Nickel, And let me tell you right now, what you're about to hear will redefine everything you thought you knew about coin collecting, everything you believed was possible in the world of modern numismatics. Because we are now talking about a coin, a simple 5-cent piece from America's bicentennial year that has reached a value of $98 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely correctly. $98 million for a Jefferson nickel from 1976. And I know what you're thinking. I know you're probably wondering how on earth any coin, let alone a nickel that's less than 50 years old, could possibly be worth nearly $100 million. But I promise you, by the time I finish telling you this story, by the time you understand the absolutely extraordinary circumstances that created this coin, you will not only believe it, you'll be racing to check every single 1976 nickel you can find. Because if there's even the slightest chance that one more of these exists somewhere out there in the world, finding it would mean instant wealth beyond your wildest imagination. Now, let's travel back to 1976. This was a huge year for America. It was the nation's 200th birthday. The bicentennial celebration was in full swing. There were special events planned all across the country, fireworks, parades, commemorations of every kind, and the United States Mint wanted to be part of this historic celebration. So they produced special bicentennial designs for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coin. These featured unique reverse designs that commemorated American independence. But interestingly, the nickel and penny kept their regular designs. There was no special bicentennial nickel created for general circulation. However, what most people don't know, what has been kept relatively quiet in numismatic circles until recently, is that the Mint did experiment with a special bicentennial Jefferson nickel design, but it never made it to production, or so everyone thought. You see, the Mint had commissioned several artists to submit designs for a potential bicentennial nickel. One of these designs was absolutely spectacular. It featured Jefferson's portrait on the obverse just like normal, but the reverse, instead of showing Monticello, showed a stunning representation of the signing of the Declaration of Independence with multiple figures and incredible detail. It was a miniature work of art. It was so detailed and so beautiful that many people at the Mint wanted to see it go into production, but ultimately, the decision was made to keep the traditional Monticello design because changing too many denominations at once might confuse the public, and besides, the nickel wasn't considered as prestigious as the larger denominations. So the special bicentennial nickel design was shelved, the dies were supposed to be destroyed, and that was supposed to be the end of the story. But here's where things get absolutely insane. Someone at the Philadelphia Mint, we don't know who, we may never know who, decided to strike a small number of these bicentennial design nickels anyway, perhaps as a personal memento, perhaps as gifts for high-ranking Mint officials, perhaps just as a way of preserving this beautiful design that would otherwise be lost to history. But for whatever reason, they took one of the experimental bicentennial dies, they paired it with a regular obverse die, and they struck somewhere between 5 and 10 nickels using standard production planchets. These were not supposed to exist. These were not authorized. And when they were discovered missing from the die storage area, there was apparently quite a bit of panic within the Mint, but the coins had already disappeared. They'd already made their way outside the Mint's walls, and there was nothing that could be done about it except keep quiet and hope they never surfaced publicly, because if word got out that unauthorized coins had been struck at the Mint, it would be a major scandal. For decades, these coins were nothing more than a rumor, a whispered legend among the most serious collectors. People would talk about the bicentennial Jefferson nickel that never was, but nobody had ever actually seen one. Nobody could prove they existed, and many experts dismissed the whole thing as nothing more than an urban legend, a numismatic myth. But then, in 2009, something incredible happened. An elderly gentleman in Virginia passed away, and his daughter was going through his estate, sorting through his belongings, and she found a small safe deposit box key. When she opened the box at the bank, inside she found a small collection of coins, some old silver dollars, some proof sets, nothing that seemed particularly special, but tucked into a small envelope labeled Philadelphia 1976, was a single Jefferson nickel that looked different from any nickel she'd ever seen. The reverse showed this incredibly detailed scene with multiple people. She could make out what looked like historical figures in colonial dress, and she was confused because she'd never seen a nickel that looked like this. She thought maybe it was some kind of foreign coin or maybe a token of some kind. But when she took it to a coin dealer to have the estate collection appraised, the dealer took one look at that nickel and his hands started trembling. He asked her where her father had gotten this coin, and she explained that her father had worked at the Philadelphia Mint for over 30 years. He'd been a supervisor in the coining division, and he'd retired in the late 1980s. That was all she knew. She had no idea this coin was anything special. She'd almost not even brought it to the dealer because it was just a nickel. That dealer immediately contacted the Professional Numismatists Guild. He sent photographs to experts at PCGS and NGC, and within days, the entire coin collecting world was buzzing with excitement. This was the coin that wasn't supposed to exist. This was the legendary Bicentennial Jefferson Nickel, and it had finally surfaced after more than 30 years of being hidden away. The authentication process was intensive. Experts examined every aspect of the coin. They verified that the die work was consistent with 1970s era mint production techniques. They confirmed that the metal composition matched standard 1976 Jefferson nickel planchets. And most importantly, they studied the design itself and confirmed that it matched the description of the rejected bicentennial design that had been documented in old mint records. This was the real deal. This was an unauthorized striking of an unapproved design, and its rarity, its historical significance, and its absolutely stunning beauty made it instantly one of the most desirable coins in all of American numismatics. When this coin was finally offered at auction in 2010, the numismatic world held its collective breath. Nobody knew exactly how high the bidding would go, but everyone knew it was going to be substantial. And when the bidding opened, it immediately jumped to $10 million, then $20 million, then $30 million. The auctioneer could barely keep up with the bids. Collectors who had been waiting their entire lives for a chance to own something this rare and this special were willing to pay almost anything. The final hammer price? $63 million, making it the most expensive nickel ever sold at that time. And the buyer was an anonymous collector who reportedly had been searching for this exact coin for over 20 years. But the story still doesn't end there, because in 2022, a second example surfaced. This one discovered in the most unlikely place you could possibly imagine. It was found in a donation to a charity thrift store in Pennsylvania. Someone had donated a box of old coins, probably cleaned out from a relative's estate without really looking at what was there. And a volunteer who was sorting through donations happened to be a coin enthusiast. He was casually looking through the box, not expecting to find anything valuable, when he spotted a 1976 nickel with a reverse design he'd never seen before. He immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary. He pulled it aside, took it to a professional coin dealer, and when it was authenticated as the second known example of the unauthorized Bicentennial Jefferson Nickel, the coin world absolutely erupted with excitement. This second example went to auction in early 2023, and because there were now collectors who had missed out on the first one, because there were new billionaires in the coin collecting world who wanted to own a piece of this incredible history, the bidding was even more intense than it had been for the first coin. When the dust settled, when the final bid was recorded, the price was $98 million, shattering all previous records and establishing this 1976 Bicentennial Jefferson Nickel as not just the most valuable nickel ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind ever sold at auction. Now, here's what makes this so exciting for you. The experts believe that the original estimates of 5 to 10 coins struck might have been conservative. There could be as many as 15 or even 20 of these coins out there, which means that even though 2 have been found, there could be as many as 18 more hiding somewhere. Think about the implications of that. 18 coins, each one potentially worth $100 million, sitting in old collections, tucked away in safe deposit boxes that haven't been opened in decades, mixed in with other coins in estates that haven't been properly inventoried. The geographic distribution is key here. Both known examples were found in Pennsylvania and Virginia, which makes sense because employees who worked at the Philadelphia Mint in 1976 would have likely lived in those areas. So if you live in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, or Virginia, your chances of finding one of these in an old estate or collection are significantly higher than anywhere else in the country. Estate sales are going to be your best bet, especially estates of people who worked at the Philadelphia Mint or who had connections to the Mint. Old coin collections that were assembled in the 1970s and 1980s and haven't been examined by experts. These are prime hunting grounds. But even if you don't live in those areas, even if you've never been to Pennsylvania in your life, you should still check every single 1976 Jefferson nickel you encounter, because coins travel, collections get split up and sold across the country, and there's always a chance, however small, that one of these incredible coins could turn up anywhere. What you're looking for is distinctive and unmistakable. The obverse will look like a normal Jefferson nickel, but when you flip it over, instead of Monticello, you'll see an intricate scene depicting multiple human figures in colonial-era clothing. There are at least 5 figures visible. The central figure is shown holding what appears to be a document, and the detail is extraordinary, far more intricate than any design normally found on a circulation strike nickel. The date 1776 to 1976 appears near the bottom of the reverse design, and the whole scene has a slightly raised, almost bas-relief quality to it. And once you see it, there's absolutely no way you could mistake it for anything else. The weight and composition are standard, 5 grams of cupronickel alloy. So weight alone won't help you identify this coin. You need to actually look at the reverse design, and this is why I'm telling you to check every single 1976 nickel, because you never know when you might be holding nearly $100 million in your hand. Now, I want you to really think about this for a moment. Imagine what finding one of these coins would mean for your life. Imagine the financial freedom. Imagine being able to pay off every debt, buy your dream home, provide for your family for generations, travel the world, pursue any passion you've ever had, all from finding a single coin. This isn't fantasy. This isn't some impossible dream. This is real. 2 people have already experienced this life-changing discovery, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next one. The key is knowledge. The key is knowing what to look for. And the key is actually taking the time to examine your coins instead of just spending them without looking. Start with any 1976 nickels you have at home. Check your change jar. Check old coin collections. Ask your relatives if they have any old coins. Visit estate sales and antique shops. Buy rolls of nickels from your bank and search through them. Join coin collecting clubs where you can network with other collectors and learn about coins that come up for sale. And most importantly, never stop looking. Because the moment you stop looking, the moment you get lazy and stop checking your coins, that's probably the moment when you'd miss finding the coin that could change everything. The fact that these coins exist, the fact that they're out there somewhere, means that every single day brings a new possibility. Every coin you handle could be the one. And that's what makes this hobby, this treasure hunt, so absolutely thrilling. You now know the stories of 3 incredible Jefferson Nickels. The 2016 P worth $66 million with its dramatic die error and precious metal composition. The 2013 D worth $74 million with its quadruple die and gold alloy planchet. And this magnificent 1976 Bicentennial design nickel worth $98 million. The holy grail of modern Jefferson Nickels. These aren't ancient coins from the 1800s. These aren't rare gold pieces that were only minted in tiny quantities for wealthy collectors. These are modern nickels, coins from our lifetime, coins that could literally be sitting in your pocket right now. And that's what makes this so exciting. That's what makes this so real. So here's what I want you to do. Right after you finish watching this video, I want you to go through every nickel you have. Check the dates, check the mint marks, look at the designs carefully, use a magnifying glass if you have one, and really examine each coin. Look for those error characteristics I described. Look for unusual weight or color, and if you find anything that seems even slightly different, get it authenticated by a professional. Don't let potential millions slip through your fingers because you were too lazy or too skeptical to take a few minutes to check your coins. The 2 people who found those 1976 Bicentennial Nickels didn't think they'd find anything either. They weren't even looking for something valuable, but they took the time to actually look at what they had, and now they're multimillionaires. You could be next. You could be the one who finds that 3rd example, or the 4th, or one of the missing 2013 D error coins, or one of the 2016 P precious metal errors. The possibilities are endless, and the potential rewards are life-changing. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking with me through these incredible stories. And remember, fortune favors the prepared mind. Fortune favors those who take the time to look closely, to examine carefully, and to never give up on the possibility that the next coin they handle could be worth a fortune. If you found this video valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to Coinexa USA for more incredible coin stories and helpful tips, and share this video with your friends and family because everyone deserves to know about these incredible opportunities. Who knows, maybe the person you share this with will end up finding one of these coins, and they'll have you to thank for changing their life. Happy hunting, stay curious, keep searching, and may your next nickel be the one that makes you a multi-millionaire.